Hi, everyone. I'm Amy McGrath, and I'm here with Denver Riggleman, and this is Truth in the Barrel, The Devil's Cut.
Love this. Love this. And, today, before we get into the incredible story of Golden Dome, which, it sounds sort of like one of the kids' books, like Everybody Poos, it's just sort of weird,
Yeah, we're talking today about Trump's new shiny idea of a Golden Dome missile defense system, which he has decided we need based on Israel's Iron Dome system. And so this is really important because it's a massive amount of money. And we need to talk about the potential for this system, why we might need it, and how kind of crazy it is. But first, I'm going to hand it back over to you, Denver, because this is Truth in the Barrel, and we got to talk whiskey.
We got to talk whiskey because it is a Devil's Cut episode and pretty special. By the way, if everybody out there, you need to know, you can always join in the fun, the education, the incredible insight into what's happening every day by making sure that you download us on your favorite pod and you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can actually see us on all the socials, Amy. I mean, we're pretty brave. We're even on Truth Social, on X, we're on Blue Sky, just everywhere that you can find Truth in the Barrel, look us up. And then you get to hear things like Golden Dome and also whiskey tastings. And today, Amy, I have E.H. Taylor Small Batch, bottled in bond, which is very interesting. Now, people are like, what is bottled in bond? And so E.H. Taylor, I don't know if people know this, why this is so cool. E.H. Taylor was one of the first people to lobby for bottled in bond to ensure that distillers had tax breaks.
So what does that mean, bottled and bond? What does that mean?
Yeah, bottled and bond is a 4-year whiskey that's you're already paying the taxes on it, but it has to be at 100 proof, right? It has to be bottled at 100 proof. Okay. So when you have a bottled and bond, you have a straight whiskey over 4 years old that's bottled at 100 proof that's already been taxed. It's been bottled in bond or in a bonded warehouse. So pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So in E.H. Taylor, this is a bottled in bond. This is very, very traditional. And if people know the history, they're going to love it. E.H. Taylor started multiple distilleries around the country, well, in Kentucky, but his stuff is everywhere. And by the way, this used to be a Jim Beam product. Do you know who bought this? Buffalo Trace. This is now distilled at Buffalo Trace's distillery, which I know, Amy, you're a Buffalo Trace fan. So we're looking at a bottled and bond E.H. Taylor. If people go look up E.H. Taylor, incredible, the distilleries he started. The distillery that he started today is actually Castle and Key. I don't know if you know that, Amy.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Been there.
Castle and Key, right? So Castle and Key rebuilt the original distillery. By the way, and I'm trying to remember the distillery's name. 2 of the distilleries that E.H. Taylor started are now the baseline for Buffalo Trace distilleries. Okay. So incredible history. E.H. Taylor is just an amazing person. I hope that helps.
How does it taste?
Well, we're going to do it now.
Let's do it.
Pop the cork. I don't know if you could hear that, but I'm going to do a nice little pour. So here we go. So let's see. Let me get the nose real quick. But okay, I have a Glencairn glass today for the nose. I haven't had my small batch in a while. This is special for you, Amy, as always.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what the nose is? I have an awful palate. Like my wife's, like I like it or don't, right? But, my wife could tell you, but it's almost like a little cherry.
Okay.
Like with mint. But then you have this sweetness, but you have this little sweetness underneath. It's almost, to me, it's almost more peanut buttery than butterscotch. Okay. So anyhow, that's what, and I love anything at Bottled and Bond. So cheers. Here's to you, Amy McGrath.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Oh my God, it's easier than a Monday morning. Man, this is nice. This is really nice.
Good stuff. And we need it because today we're talking about Trump's January 27th executive order in which he ordered the Pentagon to deliver a plan for a Golden Dome system to protect America. So let's just start, Denver. What is a missile defense system at all? Like, what is it?
Well, if you're looking at missile defense systems, there's pretty cool stuff, right? And my training, and Amy, me and you've talked about this, based on your background being in the jet, my background mission planning for the jet. So when you're looking at a missile defense system, you're looking at something that's almost an integrated air defense system that goes all the way from early warning to executing against a target. So that means seeing something coming as soon as it's actually launched to shooting it down with a variety of methodologies or a variety of warheads or weaponry. Even when you're talking missile defense, you have different types of missile defense, which is interesting because we've talked nuclear in one of our shows, and we talked about ICBMs. But missile defense could be anything from ICBMs to rockets fired from Lebanon into Israel, right?
Right.
Or even different kinds of specific types of surface-to-air missile systems, even man pads, man portables, right? That can shoot from your little shoulder here, all the way to very advanced mobile SAM systems like the Russian SA-15s, right? Or even up to very advanced systems like strategic surface-to-air missile systems like the S-400, right? That can actually reach out and touch aircraft from a long way away, which you can put our intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets in harm's way.
Yeah. Basically, you're trying to shoot down something that is coming at you in the sky. So if a drone is
Correct.
coming at you, a missile's coming at you, a cruise missile, or something, a nuclear tipped missile, the idea
Correct.
behind missile defense in all of its broad categories is we're going to shoot that thing down so it doesn't go boom. Okay,
That's
what
correct.
this is. Now, Donald Trump has decided that he loves Israel's Iron Dome system. The Iron Dome system is a system that Israel has developed. It's worked very well against rockets coming from Hamas. It's worked very well against regional missiles coming from Iran. And Donald Trump has basically said, I want that for America. I acknowledge the idea. We all want to be safe from potentially incoming missiles. But there's some real issues with this, starting with the size of Israel is about the size of New Jersey. And so protecting the entire United States makes it more difficult scientifically, right? I mean, the Iron Dome, as you know, Denver, it's protects against regional missiles, lower flying missiles. It's a tactical system. So folks, unless Canada is going to launch a missile at, I don't know, Cleveland, Ohio, this is not a system that we necessarily want to buy. But Donald Trump has bigger ideas, right? He wants to create one that would protect us against all missiles coming from all around the world, right?
That's exactly right. And I think when you look at Iron Dome as a tactical system, I think people need to know, first of all, I've got to feel and touch it in Israel, right? And, the fact that, I was trained, you think about intelligence training and then go into mission planning, right? Like, for instance, if you were going into harm's way, Amy, what would I need to tell you, right? When you're looking at your initial points, when you're looking at your altitudes, what's your threats, right?
Yeah, what are the threats?
What are the threats?
Because you want to shoot me down. That's all I care about.
You're like, Dan, I don't know if I want to go in at 8,000 AGL if there's an SA-8 on the ground right over, right?
You'd be 8,000 feet up. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yes. So, right. You'd be like, Dan, I don't know. Do I want to go right over that SAM? What other assets? Do I have CJs there with me? Do I have, do I got prowlers or Terpes pods? What do I got looking at? Are we going to target that before I actually fly over it? Don't send me over an actual envelope where I'm going to get shot down, right, Amy? You'd be like, I hate you as an intelligence officer if I do that. That's
right.
Stupid, right? When you look at an Iron Dome as a tactical system, it can fire between, 60 or 80 missiles per battery. So, right, so say you got 10 batteries that are active at a time, that's 800 missiles, right, that are shooting down the lobbing that's coming from either Gaza or Lebanon. I'm talking Israel specifically. That's really different from protecting the United States. And you made me laugh. I don't think Canada or Mexico are going to be shooting tactical rockets.
I mean, give us some time with Donald Trump.
That's right. It's like John Candy and Canadian bacon. We're actually going to go to war with Canada. But Golden Dome, when they put it out there, was almost this, well, we're going to shoot down every threat from everywhere, almost in an ICBM scenario, right? Or missiles that are coming into America. Iron Dome is not the exact corollary. Maybe that's why they use Golden Dome, but it's really not it, right? We're actually sort of expanding or improving. If I had to build the requirements, we're expanding or improving our strategic missile defense, which is very different from tactical and operational.
Right.
So
Well, and
go ahead.
we've been here before, right? I mean, Ronald Reagan started what was called, some people called it Star Wars, some people called it the SDI, or Strategic Defense Initiative, and the idea behind that was we would have space lasers out there to be able to shoot down nuclear ballistic missiles coming at us. And here's the bottom line about what happened in that case: it was a super costly program. It cost us over $400 billion in the 1980s. 80s. It proved way too technologically difficult to do, and we abandoned it. We abandoned the program because it was not working. And when you think about today and think about all that's happening in government with, this, hey, we're going to tackle fraud, waste, and abuse, the Dodge people going up there and trying to do that. Think about spending trillions, because that's what this Golden Dome would cost, $5 trillion to build this thing. And you can say, well, Amy, aren't we more technologically savvy than we were in the 1980s? Shouldn't we be able to do this now? Well, it's still really hard. Scientists liken this to trying to shoot a bullet out of the sky with another bullet. It's tough.
It's really tough. And, of course, spaceborne lasers, obviously there's sort of an umbrella of defense, right? We do have a system that, has a certain number of missiles in the dozens to shoot down ICBMs. I can't go into it much. Amy, me and you've talked about this, right? I've always been absolutely impressed by what you've done. My background's been very diverse in even space-based weapon systems. I've worked the NSA NRO combined the joint angle for specific programs in this area. I've been to Cheyenne Mountain. I've been to Peterson. I've worked in Cheyenne Mountain. And in Peterson Air Force Base. Fort Belvoir. Been all around there, but really worked a lot at Buckley ADF, right? Aerospace Defense Facility, which is now, I think they changed its National Guard base, but it's an NRO and an NSA joint area that I can't talk too much about. But that's where I cut my teeth. And I think when we're talking about this Golden Dome thing, and it's interesting, I think they might have named it Golden Dome because they had a trademark issue with Iron Dome in Israel. I think what you're looking at
and
is
because Trump loves gold, right?
Well, not only that, but it's weird. I think based on the rumors of him and golden things happening in Russia, like, golden showers and stuff, maybe Golden Dome isn't the appropriate name for this, but you talked about how big this would have to be, trillions, right? Do you know that they're already running lines for funding through the appropriations process for Golden Dome now? Think about that. Without really a defined way of going about it, what's the first requirement? And it was like, Denver, it's a boondoggle. And Amy, why don't you define boondoggle for people? I think I loved it when you said it. Yeah. Would you define boondoggle?
I guess that's not a term that people normally use, but we use it in the military. It's basically means where it's a complete waste of money, that there is no feasible way to get to the mission to actually succeed. And people are just having a lot of fun with the money. I mean, it's a boondoggle, right? I mean, it means we're all having a lot of fun with the money that's been thrown at us. When people say to me, why is this a problem? Shouldn't we be thinking big? Shouldn't we be tackling these technological challenges to protect our country? I break it down and try to remind people, there's 3 different phases for when a ballistic missile is shot and launched at us. Okay. The boost phase, the mid-course phase, and the terminal phase. The most vulnerable is the boost phase. So ideally, we would want to shoot down that missile that is launched at us in the boost phase. That's as you know, the first 3 or 4 minutes of when it's launched up into the atmosphere, and the idea behind this Golden Dome is that we would try to do that. Now, you can do that by having ground-based interceptors, but those ground-based interceptors would have to be very, very close, geographically close to the missile that is being launched at us. And if it's being launched in North Korea, we would have to be very close around North Korea with thousands of ground-based interceptor missiles. And the problem with that is China ain't going to want that. They're not going to want that. It's hard. And then you could place them, and people say, well, let's place them in space. That sounds good. Let's place these interceptor missiles in space so that when the nuclear launched missile goes up into outer space, or even ideally before it gets into outer space, we've launched our interceptor missiles from space. The problem with that is you got to put thousands of these interceptors in orbit around where we think the North Koreans in this case are launching from. So the scientists have looked at this, have said we need 1,000 interceptor missiles orbiting in space to counter just one North Korean nuclear ballistic missile. How feasible is this?
I don't know. It's a weird thing because I don't know if that's exactly correct, right? Depending on what we can do left of boom, that might change everything, right?
So what's left of boom?
So left of boom is all the mission planning that goes in before the actual missile is launched, which is called, you have intelligence preparation of the battlefield or intelligence preparation of the battle space, right? You're looking at the order of battle of the specific threat country and the type of missile systems that they have, from tactical to strategic, right? Through all those multiple machinations, right? As you're talking, Amy, it's a much different missile trying to shoot you down than an ICBM. Completely different, right? It's even a different TTP, tactics, techniques, and procedures. A different, right? It's different in how they actually engage the target. I think the plausible portion of this is indications and warning, INW. And that with the advent of the ability to process multiple types of data that might not be in the same formats, right? And I'm not going to go into all the weird technical terms for AI or graph neural networks because that's what my company does now. When you're looking at that, I think the one plausible thing is tracking where or how those missiles will be released, right? Based on an INW AI or advanced technology look at how these countries are actually deploying. For example, I don't know how far I can go in. Okay, there's different things that happen before there's a missile launch, right? We talk about people are moving things into place to launch something, right? If it's a mobile missile, it's going to be moving. We can track those movements, right? And we have different systems to do that. But if our AI says that this movement happened, or we're looking at historical precedent because past performance is based on future performance, and there's Russian ways of doing business. We look at tactics, Russian tactics. We look at Chinese tactics, which are some the same. We can tell by past tactics what they're getting ready to do. What if we could do an automatic INW without having thousands of analysts? We can take analysts out of the simplest part of the
What is INW?
So indications and warning. So that you're looking way left of boom, right? You're saying, oh my gosh, they just did it. And you know what? When they did that announcement 10 years ago, that they launched something that's interesting. They might be launching something.
But I'm going to push back on that a little bit because, so we get an indication that they're launching. So what? You're not. I mean, you still have to knock the thing out after it launches. It's not like you can. Oh, we're gonna bring our space-based satellites closer now because we think they're going to launch. It doesn't work like that.
Well, retasking can. So when you can pre-position assets, so for me, right? If you're going into harm's way, right? And I already saw, and so say I'm doing, a mission plan, right? And we have tactical, operational, strategic assets. So I got national data coming from NSA. I have data coming in from our combatant command, right? That's looking at past historic data for order of battle. And I'm getting tactical inputs from aircraft or other areas or other pre-positioned ISR assets. Say I'm getting all that data, right? And I have three things up, right? This is before, this is what I did. So I got three things up, and all of a sudden I see a very specific system pop, right? And that specific system based on microns or infrared might tell me that it's the Bob's your uncle system that we didn't know was there beforehand. We can pre-position assets quickly to mitigate the threat. So if we have indications and warning that say that Djibouti is already moving TELs, transport erector launchers, and I'm making this up, right? Because I can't talk about the other stuff. They're moving TELs into position, and we know that Djibouti is getting ready to launch, and we know that those specific systems are only meant for the US, and we're getting SIGINT, ELINT, or COMET, and then we direct our resources and realign our resources into a collection posture that goes directly for the threat based on the left of boom INW line we're getting on past performance or past tactics. We might be able to hit them right in the womb, right?
Okay.
Boom. So it's those kind of things.
I can see your logic there. However, we're talking, we rearrange our assets to look at one particular system somewhere. China has over 300 ICBMs. You're not going to target all 300 and shoot all 300 down. Russia
That's
has
correct.
thousands.
Mhm.
Okay. North Korea, dozens. It's going to be, and we're talking just in the boost phase. If you look at, let's shoot them down in the mid course, it's very easy for these systems to have chaff, which is like a decoys that they put out. We know that we already have missile defense systems. We have 44 interceptors that are based in California and Alaska, at least in open source. And those are limited, meaning they are not perfect. And if we are overwhelmed with multiple missiles coming at us or multiple warheads, those missile defenses can be easily overwhelmed. So, I mean, there's just a lot of limitations to this. And I worry that this is a giant, as I said before, boondoggle, where we are going to sink a ton of money into this for not much to show for it. Now, we could also work on terminal phase, destroying something in the terminal phase, which we have some systems that can do that. But again, they are limited around small areas. We don't have anything that could cover the entire United States of America. And to create something like that would be just really technologically difficult. And also, I'm interested in your opinion on this. Number one, who profits from this? Because, if lots of satellites have to be launched, who's the one that's going to profit from that? Well, Elon Musk. And then two, what does it do to the balance of our deterrence and world deterrence in terms of nuclear powers?
Right. So, well, man, that's a lot to unpack. So first part.
Bring it.
First part. So when you're looking at missile defense systems being shot down in a strategic way, I'm going to humbly submit this, Amy. Do you know who's worse at ICBM missile defense? China and Russia. So if we invest in INW, indications and warning, or left of boom on Golden Dome and not specifically the weapon systems themselves, what we can do is actually affect an offensive posture before they're really ready for it. Because the advantage that we have is superior naval and air technologies. And we also, so it's great, right? When you look at even, combined spending, but what we have now, we're still absolutely dominant when it comes to our ISR assets and our ability to pre-position assets based on how they're working. So I would say, as far as building an architecture or infrastructure to shoot down every ICBM, it seems almost impossible at this point in current technology. But what doesn't seem impossible is use of advanced technology to go offensive before they have a chance to actually react. Because if we know in advance, it allows us to either back channel or pre-position assets where we're now like, okay, MFers, you guys want to start testing? You want to start looking North Korea at doing long range tests, and you think you have a missile that flies, 9,500, nautical miles or so? Right? If you're going to do that, we can see it.
Well, we can see it, but what do you mean by going offensive? What
We
does that mean?
pre-position assets. Say, if you guys are going to do this, we're going to go ahead and make sure that our weaponized assets are a little bit closer to you, and we're going to mobilize ourselves. And they're like, well, how do they even know? And that's the thing. That's the scary part about the United States. The more we know in advance on intel, specifically if they're doing any type of increased production. And by the way, we have a lot of ints out there, a lot of intelligence disciplines that the Chinese and the Russians aren't very good at. And I'm not trying to make people feel better just by blowing smoke. But I can tell you, and Amy, I've done some war games or some tabletops and some exercises, and me and you've been to Red Flag and Ellis and all that, where us going offensive earlier or seeing them in specific modes scares the shit out of them. Like, holy shit, if they can see this, what else can they do? So it's sort of a, like, what other technologies do they have in their back pocket? So it's a little bit of a perception game based on how we react.
I would actually not use the term going offensive, because you're not saying strike them. You're just saying move assets to be in a more defensive position. Okay. To be
Jiu-jitsu.
able to. Okay. I mean, I hear you. I just think that it's harder than we make it out to be.
It's very, very difficult.
And here's the other thing I hear about people that are kind of pushing this, hey, we need to buy this Golden Dome. We need to invest in this thing. This is Trump's big thing. And Denver, he's a master negotiator. And this all in his master plan. This Golden Dome is like, Reagan started Star Wars, and that's when the Soviet Union collapsed, right? Because they couldn't compete with Star Wars. And so, now this is Trump's idea of bringing China and Russia to the table to talk nuclear nonproliferation or arms control, shall we say, because he's going to start this talk of starting this Iron Dome system. I don't know. I don't know what you think about that, but I don't think Trump even understands any of this stuff. And so
doesn't.
No.
I think if Golden Dome was relegated to indications and warning left of boom for ICBMs, for any other type of possible prioritized targeting on terminal phase, and you can build the requirements for that, I think that's worthwhile. I don't think it's worthwhile to go right into building a constellation, because your other question about the boondoggle is that there's two people that are really going to benefit from this, because I think we've lost all competitive nature in contracts, and I think that's Musk and Bezos. And I also think, the big boys, you have the other competitors with the Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, sort of all the JVs, the joint ventures that are out there also building missile equipment and rocket equipment and satellite equipment for, NASA and for NSA and for NRO and for our DoD services and all the other things we could go into on another. If we want to talk about satellite constellations, I've forgotten more about that. I think that I don't even want to remember everything that I was taught in special access programs. So the thing that scares me here, looking at what the rational portion of this would be, which is a requirements-based appropriations process for looking at strategic threats in the nuclear space and strategic space. Wow. That's a good way to put it, right? And we had a requirements-driven approach process based on the HASC, the HPSC, the Senate Armed Services Committee, and the Senate Subcommittee on Intelligence. If all of them actually had a requirements-based way of doing this with real individuals and professionals coming in and shaping this, Amy, I'd have some confidence. But we have incompetence and ridiculousness with people like Hegseth and Waltz and all these people who are sort of just firing from the hip. So it's interesting that we have that going on. So, and my mind is blown, because the people that are really lobbying for this are going to be the Musk, the Bezos, the Thiels, everybody who has direct access with direct contract lines to take away any competition from anybody else based on the fact of where they're at in the hierarchy as Trump's boys. We have a really bad situation here.
Big picture. Look, we start to develop something like this. China and Russia are going to counter. They're going to build more nukes. They're going to start building more countermeasures. We do not do things in a vacuum. Okay, so that's number one. We can think about, this is a great system. We should develop it. Guess what? Our enemies are going, and I know you said they're behind. I get that, but they're going to look and they're going to see this as a threat. to them, and they are going to try to counter. So that's number one. Number two, the domestic political pushback to this will be real, not only in terms of money, because as we've talked about, our budget is it's limited. I know Pete Hegseth wants a $1 trillion defense budget. The reality is there's a lot of other competing priorities in our national defense. Shipbuilding has been something that Donald Trump has now cares about. That's going to cost money. Nuclear modernization itself is going to cost money.
Cheers.
So this price tag of trillions for something like this is just it's probably not feasible. And the second piece of this is the domestic politics behind it. Look, I've often thought, what's in a name? He named this thing Golden Dome. Well, what does that do, Den? That makes all Democrats look at this project as this is Donald Trump's pet project. And we're not going to be for that. What if you were serious about a weapon system that we really needed for our national security? Why on earth would you name it after yourself? If you're Donald Trump, if you really gave a shit, you would name it something that, Democrats could get behind, because that's what it's going to take in our country to do a long-term national security major project. If it's just Republicans and Donald Trump behind this thing, it ain't going anywhere.
Well, I mean, for me, I had to name a lot of stuff when I was in the military and when I was a program manager in the Pentagon and United States Air Force Special Projects. Like for one of the major programs I named DAISY, Digital Attack Surface Execution Environment, right? The other one was the Network Modeling and Exploitation System, Nemesis, right? Golden Dome is such an awful name. I see if it was me in a naming convention, it would be something like the ICBM, the ICBM Constellation Execution Space System, ISIS, right? Or something like that, where you have a real acronym to go with the name that's not specifically linked to the word gold, because Donald Trump loves a gold toilet seat, right? And things like that. Or, he likes the gilded stuff all around his freaking house, right? It's just ludicrous. So I think your naming conventions matter and the seriousness of it matters. And I think, Amy, your point is so well taken. Are we going to bankrupt our nation for something called Golden Dome? And what is that going to do to our deficit and debt? What's that going to do to our appropriations process? It's so amazing, Amy. Me and you have already gone all over this in our prior shows, and people need to watch it. And that's the thing that you're saying, I think, Amy, that I agree with wholeheartedly. There's an unserious to this that could actually destroy the real foundations of what we call the United States of America. And here's my hope. Talked about Russia and China responding. They could see this as a boondoggle. I wonder if they're like, let them spin into oblivion. We'll just improve our ICBMs, right?
We'll just make more of them.
We'll expand our blue water navies, right? We're going to make them even better. We're going to make sure our subs are better.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure our triad capabilities are on par. Holy shit. Now but on the other hand, we have to continue to increase our capability too. And I think that's the thing I always go back to is, what is the prioritization of our military capabilities when it comes to seeing the threat systems that are coming at us? So I always get caught up, Amy, based on my background, your background, and what I've done. I have really seen the benefit of advanced technology development over the 25 years I've done it, and having my own companies and even having an AI company today and what it can do. But it's a very limited target based on very defined requirements. If we're just blowing money to make sure that people get money and become richer and stronger while the rest of America suffers, I think that's the worst thing we can do. So I think why I love doing this show with you is what we're telling people right now. Said you have to have serious people in charge to have serious things happen. We don't have that right now. And if I had to make a huge overarching summary for me, Denver personally, my opinion, there's certain sections of indications and warning and looking at how they're going to come at us helps with our technology development. But the entirety of Golden Dome and building 1,000 to 2,000 systems that are spaceborne with a terrestrial, compatibility, I don't know if that's actually anything that could work in the
It's
near
a
or long term.
boondoggle. That's what
It's
it
a
is.
boondoggle.
If it
Yep.
was so good, he would have tried it in his first term. He didn't because he was surrounded by people who told him this is dumb. Don't do this. It's going to be too expensive and not work. And now he's not surrounded by anybody that'll tell him that. So here we are. It's like tariffs.
Here we are, Amy. Truth in the barrel, right?
All right.
Truth in the barrel. This is awesome. And listen, another great show, Amy. I love having these discussions with you. I hope people are learning some things. I hope they go and look some of this up. I hate that word, do your own research. Do not do that. Do sourced specific research based on validated sources and validated individuals and real documentation, not memes from 4chan or from Truth Social. And again, if you want to hear Truth in the Barrel, make sure you go to our socials. Make sure you look at everywhere we're at. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and download your favorite pod because we want to see you every week. And so I appreciate all y'all. Cheers. And
Cheers.
thanks for another Truth in the Barrel, ma'am.
All right.